We're
in
back.
action.
We're
Back
back.
in action.
Mama
Boy.
needs her medicine.
Right?
Boy, what bad timing on running out of batteries on that episode.
Wah, wah, wah.
All right, so we got PETA from Bootsy's Delta Funk on the phone. We got him on.
Hey,
We
He
got
came to funk it up.
we got him on video, but only Snow can see him because Snow's much better to look at than I am.
Right?
sad,
Hey.
sad but true.
Hey.
Just kidding.
Just like that Metallica song, sad but true.
All right, so PETA, on the end of the last one, we were talking about the music festival down there. Can you get into that again?
Oh yeah, Memphis Festival. So Memphis has an amazing music scene. I mean, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. It's the home of the blues. It's the home of the gateway of the blues. The home of rock and roll, soul. Isaac Hayes, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis. All those guys were here.
Was James Brown too?
No, not James Brown, but Isaac. Not Isaac. Al Green, and also another guy. He sang the song "What's Going On." I'm trying to remember.
Marvin Gaye?
Anyway, yeah, Marvin Gaye.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, he recorded in Memphis too. So yeah,
And the Rolling
Memphis
Stones, right?
No, they did not. I don't believe so. No, they were in England. Yeah.
I thought they
I-
recorded in Memphis.
I didn't realize that until I watched the Elvis movie on HBO that he hung out with B.B. King and James Brown. No, it was Little Richard.
Yeah.
Little Richard was
dance like that.
Yeah, Little Richard was so like in at Sun Records, which was like the place for rock and roll music and for blues. Memphis is right off of Highway 61, which is the blues highway, leading into Chicago. And so all these guys, B.B. King, Jerry Lee Lewis, all came through here and they all recorded here. Johnny Cash,
Yeah.
There's a great story about Johnny Cash coming to Memphis, to Sun Studios. And he gets in there, and that's where he met Jerry Lee Lewis and also Elvis Presley. And he sings all these Bible hymns and Christian gospel.
Wow.
And the owner of the studio stopped him halfway through and said, "Look, son, you've got a great voice, but come back and see me once you've done some sinning." And so, Johnny Cash took, huh?
Then he did. That's the part in the movie. That's one of my favorite parts. And then he says to him, "What would you sing if it was your last chance or something, or it was something like that, or the last song that you could sing?" And then he started singing that one song about shooting a man in Reno, right?
Right. Yeah, Folsom Prison Blues.
Yeah.
And so he just really kind of he kind of went there, and that's really he really discovered his sound and stuff like that. So you really have to understand the blues. The blues is from the work. It's like the workers. It's from the fields. For people working in the fields. It's not it's not gospel music, man. It's not. It's not cheery and stuff like that. It's about drudgery and dealing with just
Pain.
the pain of life, right?
Yeah.
And so that combined with a little bit, basically they sped it up and it created rock and roll. So anyway, I have not seen the Elvis movie yet, but
it's on HBO.
it should be pretty
It's
good.
really good.
Watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Hey,
Tom Hanks is in it.
I have a good Johnny Cash story. Back when I was, I think I was about 15 years old or so, maybe 16. I come home from school and my mom's like, "Hey, I'm going to a concert tonight and you're coming with me." And I was kind of like, and my mom's like, "We're going with our friend." And I'm like, "All right, I got nothing else to do. I'm down." And my mom took me to go see Johnny Cash in a 1,500 seat theater in Burlington, Vermont.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And at the time, I enjoyed it. It was cool, and I knew some of his stuff, but not all of it. But looking back all these years later, and being able to say, I saw Johnny fucking Cash.
I have a question. Did he? So when he first came out, did he come out,
Yeah,
go up to the mic and say, "Hello, I'm Johnny
Cash"? Yes,
and he started
absolutely.
playing.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen Johnny Cash.
God, yeah. I mean that was truly a bucket list of someone to see.
Yeah.
So Mike Judge, he's the creator of Beavis and Butthead and Idiocracy and all those other different shows. Silicon Valley on HBO. He created another one that's an animated one, in just like Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill, and it's called Tales from the Tour Bus. And it's kind of focuses. It focuses a lot on country music, but for example, like Waylon Jennings and like the birth of outlaw country,
Oh my God. I got to meet Waylon Jennings.
Really?
Oh
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, let me tell you the story real quick.
Okay, please do.
My Girl Scout troop got to go on the Wallace and Latin show in Arizona, down in Phoenix. And so he was the musical guest that day. And my sister has the picture of Waylon is like hugging her because she was littler and cuter. So he's like hugging her, and then Shooter's in the picture, and so is his wife, and then I'm in the picture too.
What was
nice.
what was his wife's name?
I forget.
She was a country singer too. Oh my God.
I don't know. She was
Google, help us.
She was really pretty and little tiny skinny lady.
Yeah, and she did a lot of duets with him.
Oh, yeah. I don't know her name though.
Yeah. I mean, I was raised on that kind of country, the Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson.
Awesome country.
Well, so their story was that they wanted to, like, when country music stars went to go record in Nashville, like the people, like the bosses basically controlled every aspect of the recording. Like you couldn't even bring your own musicians in there. They had to proof all of your songs to make sure it was quote unquote country music as they deemed it. Yeah. And so it was like, so you've got Waylon and you've got Willie, and Willie basically says like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this shit. I want my own, I want to play with my own guys. I want to record with my own guys. And so he goes to Austin and basically starts playing and brings like the hippies and the cowboys together. And he calls Waylon up and he's like, hey, you gotta come down here and check it out. And so he does. And Waylon comes down to Austin and sees like this whole thing that's been put together by Willie Nelson. And that kind of inspires him to kind of create his own recording studio in Nashville. And he does. And he just basically starts recording all these different artists, and stuff like that. He brings Johnny Cash up there. And anyway, it's a crazy, crazy story, man. Yeah. The music business is insane.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
And another thing about Waylon that not a lot of people know was he was Buddy Holly's guitar player. And he's the one that gave up his seat on the plane for Buddy Holly.
Okay. Yeah. I always wondered that in that La Bamba movie. I always wondered. I have the same birthday as the La Bamba
guy. Richie Valens?
Yeah. He's
wow.
One of my birthday twins.
Man, check that 7 degrees.
Right?
Hey, so your Commanders lost to the Cowboys today.
Jesus, dude, I'm not even following them. They're just horrible. I think like when I knew it was going to be terrible when Dan Snyder, who's supposed to be not having, by order of NFL, not having any involvement with the team ever because he's under investigation.
Yeah.
It just showed up and was on the field. I mean, just you think there's no. I mean, there aren't any. What's the use of having rules if there's no teeth? You know what I mean?
Yeah. How do you feel about that? About the Dan Snyder thing? I mean, being a Washington fan.
He's toxic, man. He just needs to leave the franchise alone. I mean, we were a franchise that had been to 5 Super Bowls. Before Dan Snyder showed up, you know what I mean? And he just completely poisoned that. He ruined one of the third largest fan bases, in the country. The DC market was monstrous. I mean, DC, Northern Virginia, Delaware and Maryland. I mean, that was just a monstrous market, and he just flushed it all down the toilet. I mean,
right.
Now none of their games are televised, except for when they play Dallas. That's it.
Didn't they? They have like one of the largest stadiums in the NFL, don't they? Like 90,000
Well,
capacity or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, they had RFK, which was okay. I mean, it was really kind of a piece of crap, and that was like the beauty of it is literally you could like stomp and stomp the metal bleachers enough that the entire risers would start bouncing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which people would do. You'd get on there and you'd chant, and everybody would stomp their feet at the same time, and the entire bleach, like the risers and the bleachers, would go up and down like 3 or 4 inches, which was crazy. I mean, but and so he built the new stadium and basically built it out in the middle of nowhere, and then bottlenecked it so that there's only one way in and one way out, which is a traffic nightmare, just so he could charge people, for parking and stuff. I mean, everything was just a way to basically siphon and fleece the fans for every ounce of money out of them, and in turn he poisoned the market. So
Yeah, and
He
now
sounds like a real sweet guy.
and now they're talking about building another stadium in like Northern Virginia, right outside DC, and it's going to
they
be about this 33,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see the DC. He wants to go back to DC, but DC wouldn't grant him the permit until they changed the name. They changed the name, and then like he's in trouble. So it's better to talk about what he's in trouble for. I
Right.
mean, he's in trouble for multiple sexual harassment suits. Like when he built his new office, they had glass floors, and so it was so that like
You
when
can
you're
look up
so if you're a
dresses.
woman. Yeah, so when if you're a woman wearing a skirt, like the guys on the bottom floor could look up your dress, you know what I mean? Because it's see-through glass, and he had the cheerleaders went down to like this photo shoot in Costa Rica, and then had all like the upper level boosters and box owners there, and they all like catcalled the girls and were like trying to hook up with them, and it was kind of suggested that the girls go ahead and do it, I mean, so he tried to prostitute out the cheer squad.
His own
Yeah,
cheerleaders.
I mean, yeah,
Fucked up.
I mean,
What a
like,
scumbag.
dude, I know he is. He's a total scumbag, man. He's a total scumbag. He went and bought this big yacht and basically lives on the yacht now. And everyone
Good.
that's a fan of
Stay at
DC
sea.
just wants him just get the fuck out,
Just
just go to
stay
sea
out
and
there.
never come back.
That's like
Yeah, they wanted
that's like
Gilligan.
how I feel about like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Just go to space and
God,
don't come
yeah.
back. Just go. I
Yeah,
don't care if you go.
Yeah. Oh, Elon, what a rose that guy is. Did you see that the news that came out that I'll remember he talked about the Hyperloop, and
No, I
in
didn't hear
LA.
about that. I've been trying
So
to ignore anything I hear about him. Like
this is like maybe like 10 years ago. He basically came in and proposed building this Hyperloop, and he would fund it himself, and he tried to like make himself sound like Carnegie when they built the subway system in New York and all this other stuff.
Was this
And
the one
now
that
it
was supposed
turns
to go
out,
from Vegas to LA?
right.
oh
And now
yeah,
it
I
turned
do
out that
remember this.
the only reason he did that was because LA County was going to fund a train system, a mass transit system to run that's kind of similar to like what they have in New York, and they were going to fund it, and he felt that would be competition for his cars, and so he proposed this Hyperloop, never intending to follow through with it at all, but he proposed it just to basically derail, literally, no pun intended, but to derail mass transit, for the people of LA. Because
He's
if
just a
people had take trains,
douchebag.
then it's shitty though that we've gotten to the stage of capitalism where you have enough money that you just can fuck with other people. You know what I mean?
I
You
know.
don't even have
Yeah.
to be serious anymore.
I'm just
You're not
gonna
an
be a
inventor.
fucker.
You're not.
I'm just gonna be a
Yeah.
rich
I-
fucker.
In my
Like,
opinion,
Yeah.
he never intended to buy Twitter.
No,
he
I
didn't.
think it was all
Well-
like a publicity stunt. To
Well,
make
they've
himself
released,
seem
like,
cool.
So, one of the great things about the legal system is there's this thing called discovery where you can basically pull in all of your text messages and emails and stuff like that. And so they've gotten to the discovery phase because they're suing him because you can't, it's a breach of contract to basically say you're going to buy something and then back out of it, So he
Right.
breached his contract. And so they're suing him for breach of
Right.
contract, which they should.
Yeah,
And
I've
so
heard
as
that
part of the
part.
process, yes, as part of the process is that they're getting all of these emails. And what's the worst thing in the world is that, like, if you read the emails, it's like these other titans of industry that are just like kissing his ass, and just be like, you know what would be really great is like if you completely restructured Twitter and created like a where you could one of the suggestions was is that you could actually pay to spam your competitors Twitter feed. You know what I mean? So fill their feed up with your spam, and you could actually pay for that. You know what I mean? And it was just like,
Gross.
and of course he was going to let Trump and all these other MAGA heads back on, and let them in there in the name of free speech. And yeah, I mean, and I think that the one thing like the author said, the most shocking thing is just how like there was no original thought. Like there's nothing inventive. There's nothing new. It was just basic trolling, trolling for the sake of trolling,
Well,
and everybody was like licking his boot in order to do it.
Well,
Yeah.
and if you look back, he's always had a history like the technology behind Tesla. He didn't come up with. He just funded it.
Yeah.
He bought the company when it was already a fully formed idea, and then he sued the company to force them to list him as a founder. Like he sued them to change the narrative
And he
to say that
won?
he was yeah.
How
And-
in
and
the fuck? What judge
Yeah,
was
so-
on that case?
Well, the guys that he bought the company, he bought it, I mean, and so, you if you buy something, you can change it whether it's true or not. But yeah, if you look on there, he bought the company when it was already pretty much past its
But
genesis
was it
stage.
was it already called Tesla?
Yeah, it was already called Tesla.
Oh,
This whole narrative
okay.
about how he named
I
it
was like,
after
well,
after
maybe
Nikola
he-
Tesla because
I was like, yeah, maybe he named it, so that's how he feels he's a founder. I mean, but
It's
no,
no,
It's kind of
he didn't.
ironic that it's called Tesla,
right?
given that story.
Right.
I know that is a trip.
Well, he told everybody that he idolized Tesla as a boy, and then the truth comes out that he just bought the company. It was already called Tesla. He just changed the narrative to make it
But
convenient.
the whole story about
know.
Tesla was how
Right.
Tesla was
got
ripped
screwed.
off.
Tesla
Yeah.
got screwed, so he decided to be the bad guy instead. He's like, I didn't want to see that happen to Tesla or myself.
Right.
So
Right,
I'm
alternating
gonna be the villain.
AC versus DC. Yeah, I know
I'm
the
gonna be
AC
the villain. Yeah.
alternating current. You're right. I
Oh.
mean, it's I don't know, man. It's weird that people have so much money that they don't even have to be like. You can literally pay somebody just to screw with somebody else. You know what I mean? Like he'll do that. He'll pay like $500,000 just to mess somebody else up. You know what I mean? So because it's
He's a
literally
dick.
he's got so much money. He could he's wiping his ass with it. He doesn't care. It has no value to him.
He's a dick.
Hey,
It just,
Yeah.
I mean, straight up.
hey,
I know. We're getting a little heated here.
back to football for a minute. A couple of stories from this week. The first one is I'm sure because I saw you post about this, Peter, was a Tua Tongue God, this tongue twister. Tua Tagovailoa concussion thing. Now, last weekend, Tua was playing in the game and got taken out, which looked like a head injury. And then he went to go in and see the concussion specialist who cleared him to play and said it was a back injury, so Tua went back into the game. Then on Thursday night, they were playing the Bengals, and I thought it was a dirty play because this linebacker just slammed Tua to the ground, and Tua's head goes back and hits the grass. And if you looked at his fingers, because he was trying to hold his fingers, and I don't know if he was trying to count his fingers or whatever, but he was going into these almost like this convulsion because his fingers were getting all twisted up in front of his face.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God.
now the NFL Players Association is looking at it. They fired the guy who cleared him to come back to play.
Right.
And I think the NFL has a real problem on their hands on this one.
Because he is definitely going to get, is going to get CTE. I mean, this is like,
Well,
we're watching the proof, right?
Yeah. He suffered brain damage and within a 4-day span because it was a Thursday night football game and then he got injured on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then the NFL and the Miami Dolphins both covered it up and said that first off, they said that it wasn't a head injury. That was the official statement. And then later on, they changed it to say that, well, he cleared concussion protocol. You know what I mean? And concussion protocol says that you have to basically be under review for at least a week, and
Yeah,
so
and
anyway,
the guy that cleared him wasn't even a medical specialist, from what I was reading.
I didn't read it. I just saw that the guy got canned. I mean, so they basically, they found their scapegoat, and they're going to scapegoat that guy. But there's the guy that is the head of the study group that's really focusing on this and is really kind of, brought it to the attention of everybody that everyone who's playing the NFL is basically getting their, is suffering brain damage every single game, and it has pushed for all these changes. He's already threatening a lawsuit, because he's saying like, that all these the NFL is basically sacrificing his players just for the dollar.
They said that they like I just looked it up because I was trying to see like more about it now because now I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. Said he shouldn't have returned last week even if it was just a back injury.
Right.
That's what they're saying. Like he shouldn't have.
Yeah, but they wanted to bill it as as Tua versus Joe Burrows and have this big blockbuster blowout, and Amazon has now bought all the rights to all the Thursday night football games, so yeah, I mean they want to drive market share and they want to drive revenue and they want to drive viewers, and because the way they get money is people tune in, and the more people tune in, the more they can charge people to advertise, and so, so they have to have people tune in, and in order to do that, you can't have Tua sitting on the sidelines, right?
Yeah, that was just
So he might have. So there's a good chance that his season's over because of this, and it's possibly his career. I mean, he's had back-to-back concussions.
Terrible. Like
you can't keep on playing. Yeah.
No, you can't.
I mean,
yeah.
and what he literally what he had is called a concussive seizure. I actually, being a disability rep, I actually have several clients that have seizures. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's that is a sign of severe brain damage, is that he had that seizure. For example, I have a client right now that he had a brain tumor, and they removed part of his temporal lobe to remove the tumor, and after that he started having seizures, which is caused by a misfiring in his brain, that was caused by the surgery. So he had a severe insult to the brain, an injury to the brain, and now what's going to happen if so one of the things he could do is he could have had he could die a couple days later. He could have bleeding that's just not, it's micro and you don't notice it. He could have an aneurysm. Yeah.
When you were saying how he was doing weird things with his hands, I'm like, he could possibly die from this. Like.
Yeah, he could. I mean, thankfully he hasn't. But yeah, I mean.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're doing all this stuff where they don't do kickoff returns anymore. They're trying to basically just really kind of temper the whole thing of football anymore, and I don't know what's going to happen with it. So.
Yeah, and the other legal thing that came out this week, last couple weeks, Brett Favre.
Oh God!
What a piece of fucking work this guy is.
His gets worse and worse as it goes along too. There's more info all the time coming out. Like, what a puke face.
Dude, when you can't get clean drinking water in Jackson, Mississippi, Brett Favre was asking for $5 million in welfare funds to build a volleyball practice facility for his daughter at the University of Southern Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's worse than that. It is actually like Brett Favre went to so his daughter got accepted there to play volleyball. She went there on a volleyball scholarship, right? Mm-hmm. And so, so Brett made a commitment to the school that he would deliver on funding to build a new stadium. Like it was just this was unsolicited. So Brett goes and does that, and then after he makes the commitment, the schools counting him. They're like, "Hey, dude, you promised us you'd give us this donation." Nonprofits, if you promise any nonprofit money, they're going to hound you to the ends of the earth, right?
Okay.
Because, and so they're all over him. And so that's when he starts looking for other ways to get the money. Because either either he doesn't have the money, or he just doesn't want to spend it. He's a cheap ass, or he's broke. One of the two. And of course, he does have a documented. He has a drug addiction problem, which is well documented. He's addicted to pain medication.
Nuh-uh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah,
wow.
he's an addict. I mean, and he's come up about that, about his addiction. Well, he was actually kind of forced to do it, but yeah, he's been addicted to pain pills for like the last 8 or so
He
years.
probably has CTE.
Well,
Possibly, yeah.
They probably all do.
I do remember like one of his last games when he was the quarterback for was it the Vikings? No, he went to the Jets after that. But I remember a playoff game where he was with the Vikings, and he got just nailed. It had to be 8 to 12 times in this game with hard hits, and every time I was like, he's not getting up, and he would just keep on getting up. I'm like, what's this guy made out of?
Well, it turns out he's made out of a lot of opium. I mean, he just wasn't feeling anything at all, man. I mean, he was on a lot of medication. He wasn't feeling it. So that's how he was able to get up and keep on going with that stuff. So he was feeling no pain.
Right, and he was
comfortably numb.
And he was sending text messages, I think, to the governor, because I think the governor was warning him, like, yeah, I don't think this is legal, what you're trying to do to use this funding for, and he still continued.
That's what I'm saying. All the stuff that was coming out.
So the school he basically got in touch with the governor and said, hey, you know what, like I need to get some money, and they're just like, hey, yeah, Brett Favre, yeah, well, we need somebody to head up and do this this program. And and help out people that are disadvantaged. And basically they kind of cooked up this deal. And let me say, like, the reason that we even know anything about this is because of independent reporting. You know what I mean? And so you really have to give a shout out to Anna Wolf, who is fabulous. Who's a reporter with this independent paper called the Memphis Today. I'm sorry, Mississippi Today is the name of the paper. It's an independent journalism. It's an independent thing they're all self-funded, and so Anna is a reporter that reports on welfare and like human interest and stuff like that. And so she did this study and did this research and found out that even though Mississippi is one of the poorest states in the union,
yes,
with like 30% of the people below the poverty line, they only awarded welfare benefits to like 180 people.
Oh my God!
And so she started looking into this, right? Like why? And then she found out there was like this Kafkaesque maze in order to get disability benefits, or to get any type of welfare benefits.
Oh my
God!
Brett Favre has been stealing it.
And yeah, that's what she found. That there's this people, not just Brett Favre, but there's all these guys. There's like remember Ted DiBiase, the wrestler?
Yeah.
Like he's got like this one. Like all these sports players all have like nonprofits. You know what I mean? Every single one of them.
And they're all like, stealing from the welfare people.
Well, not all of them, but in this case, like, so Brett Favre had this nonprofit, and he was basically funneling money into the nonprofit, and then he was using that nonprofit money to fund the building of the stadium.
Oh.
The stadium that he had committed to fund. And so when the school found out about this, Southern Mississippi, they were like, no, you can't do this. So there's like first off, there's a vetting process of how we have to report how we get this money. And if we show them that we got this money, that was earmarked for this, like it's not going to fly. And so they're telling him like, we can't do that. Meanwhile, the governor is just like, yeah, don't worry about it. We're just going to siphon off money from food stamps to give to you, and yeah. So people didn't eat. People didn't get food just so Brett Favre could keep a guy that was making $11 million a year could keep a promise that he made to fund a $5 million stadium. You know what I mean? Like his signing bonus alone that he got to play for the Jets would have covered the cost of this. You know what I mean? Of his promise.
Yeah,
but
pay for your own shit, dude.
Yeah, right. I mean, or don't run your mouth. Like, don't run your mouth. Don't write checks that your ass can't cash. You know what I mean? And, but yeah, and they even told him, they're like, this is where the money's coming from. We're gonna send it to you from a welfare check. And he was like, well, that's cool. Like.
And he totally didn't even care. He's like, awesome. I can't wait to take their money.
Right. And it was, I mean, this guy's, I mean, he's not just like some random, like Ted DiBiase, who was like, he played a scumbag in the wrestling arena, I mean, he wasn't just that. He was Brett Favre Hall of Famer and NFL Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? He's got the golden jacket.
Quarterback.
Yeah,
Boy,
he's got a bronze statue in Youngstown. You know what I mean?
He won the
Or is
Heisman.
it Coopertown?
the
Anyway,
Hall of Fame.
I know, I think that's whatever the NFL Hall of Fame is. I can't remember if it's in
Canton.
Youngstown or if it's
Canton,
in
Ohio.
Coopertown. Canton.
Mm.
That's right. Yeah. And so yeah. I mean, and then of course you find out that Jackson, who's a city that's majority black, it's 85% black. It's an African American city, and it's a Democratic stronghold in a Republican state, and basically they've made the determination that they're going to basically starve out this city. It's not just any city; it's the capital of Mississippi. So they're going to basically, starve it out by cutting funding for water. And so the city says, well, what we'll do is we'll raise taxes. Then we're going to create this tax thing. We'll pay for it ourselves. If we can't get money from the state to help us offset this, we'll pay for it ourselves. So they pass the tax increase, right? Well, just like every other state, you basically have to have legislature approve any type of tax rate increase, right? We found out this about when Florida basically defunded Disney and said that Disney couldn't match funds for the city that they're in, when they have the Disney city, whatever.
People
where Disney World is.
People in
That they
Mississippi get out and vote. Vote.
Well, so the city of Jackson passed a tax increase. The governor vetoed it, and he said that in the veto. He said this isn't fair to the rest of the state that we can craft a tax measure that specifically only helps one city. You know what I mean? And then of course, all this stuff basically got to a breaking point because they had this flooding. The flooding wiped out the overwhelmed the pumping stations, and guess what? They basically the water was unsafe.
But
and they
still, they need to get out and vote based off of what Brett Favre did too, stealing from poor kids. Like that is fucked up.
Yeah.
The problem.
Get out and vote, people.
The problem being is
Right.
is in Mississippi you're not going to overcome that because you're going to have the base that is just more worried about illegal immigrants than.
I mean, the county
water.
that's in. Well, the county that for in Jackson, Mississippi is overwhelmingly I mean, they're not just Democrat. The mayor Mayor Chawambi is an avowed socialist. He's part of like Bernie Sanders' group. And so yeah, he's beyond Democrat. He's a former civil rights lawyer. I mean, he's well educated and stuff like
Jackson,
that.
Mississippi.
And Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay, I've never been to
Yeah.
Jackson yet. Okay, sorry,
Well,
didn't mean.
I mean,
to
it's
interrupt.
a nice city.
I gotta go
when you
visit now that I'm
if you
hearing
don't
all
have to
this
drink the
cool
water.
stuff about
You-
them.
yeah, if you don't have to drink the water.
Yeah,
Oh.
bring water.
They cut their
Jackson
water
is
off now.
No, you can't drink the
Well-
water there because of flooding. And
well, because
I
they
didn't
they
know
don't-
it flooded there.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's a couple
it
months
did,
ago.
yeah, right. And so they get hit with flooding. The basically the water system, they have no way of purifying the water, so the water's not safe to drink, and it comes out it's black and brown, and so they've been on a boil water notice. They basically you cannot drink any water in the state. It's only basically safe to like bathe in, and that's it. You know what I mean? And even then, it's kind of sketchy.
Well, I'm gonna wait till I go and visit Jackson then when they fix their water.
Right.
And then I'll
Right.
go visit.
Yeah. I mean, I can send you guys some links if you want to contribute to something that's going to really help. If you definitely, though,
Okay.
if anything else,
I
contribute to help. Like buy a monthly subscription to Mississippi Today because they're doing the great reporting. And again, like all this stuff came out because this one reporter started looking at how many people are actually on the welfare rolls in the state of Mississippi, and it came out that it was like around 200 for an entire state. And all of a sudden she started backtracking, and she's been spending years, trying to, follow all the leads, doing investigative reporting like it's supposed to be done, to find out, what's going on with all this stuff, and then of course it leads to, Brett Favre, it leads to, these people on poverty. And then of course, right then, you have the water system, the water purification plant, the water treatment plant fail, so you can't get
People
drinking water.
Vote,
yeah, we're
vote,
like
Yeah.
vote this November.
we're
Vote.
about 5 weeks away from the midterms.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
On it.
Vote.
And speaking of that, in our great state of Arizona, 2 stories from the last couple weeks.
I can't wait to get my ballot. Ready.
The
ready.
the Save Our Schools initiative failed, which means
Yeah.
people can get school vouchers, and you know how it's going to work. People are going to take this funding and not use it towards education, because I guess you can apply for, Pete might know this a little bit better than me, a certain amount of money to send your kid to a private school. When in 2018, I believe, it was something like 80% of the voters were against this measure. But I don't know how things work in our state legislature that you're able to keep on pushing this and pushing it. And we had thought we had enough signatures to put it on the ballot again. But it turned out, I guess, a number of those signatures weren't valid. And now the
Yeah,
school voucher people are
Yeah.
going
Damn
against
it.
Save Our Schools. So we're going to have this voucher
But
program,
we at least get to vote.
and
Yeah.
but our public schools will not be voted. Will not get the funding that
But
they need.
yeah.
And also I'll just finish with this thought that I don't think it can go on the ballot now.
No, I thought I had heard recently that it's still going to get on the ballot.
No, because they didn't have enough valid
Yeah.
signatures to be able to put it on
Yeah,
the ballot.
You have to get so I've been in part of signature drives before. There's usually a threshold that you have to get. So you have to get like 140,000 signatures in order to put it on a statewide ballot. And so usually what companies will do, they outsource out to these companies, is they'll overshoot. Like they try to get like 200 because they know the attrition. They're going to lose some. Some of them are going to be bad. Some of them aren't going to be good. You're gonna hire people that forge signatures and stuff like that. It just always happens that way. And so when they came it down to it, and this was done by Katie Hobbs, who's the Secretary of State, she validated, and they only validated like 122,000 signatures, and so they were well short of the amount needed. Now, here's the thing in Arizona though, is in Arizona in the House and then in the Senate, there's only two seats that determine majority. You know what I mean? So if you could flip 2 seats in Arizona, 2 in the Senate and 2 in the House, you can change this, and you could get Democrats in that will push through this legislation. That's wildly popular. I mean, this is popular legislation. Like you said, 80% of the people support it.
We'd have to
In
get
Arizona,
them
they
from-
believe in public education.
We'd have to get them from like Tucson or certain parts of Phoenix.
That whole calculus has changed now because of the ruling on the Roe versus Wade, where you had the judge down in Tucson who ruled that the Dobbs decision invalidates Arizona's abortion law, and it brings it all the way back to the 1800s, which is kind of like it's like so on the point, so on the nose. You know what I mean? That's just like
which was well over 50 years before Arizona even became a state.
Yeah, Arizona was
Right.
not a state.
Yeah. It goes back to like the territorial days. So basically, women in Arizona are now back in the territorial days as far as reproductive rights go. And so like now, like the biggest thing is that not enough people are running, because they're now predicting that this is going to be just a complete wash. Like, and they literally don't have enough people running for enough positions to wipe out all the Republicans and make them pay for this grievous error. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Up here in Mojave County, on a lot of ours, we have no Democrats on any of the tickets, just because people feel like, what's the point?
Well, it's true though. You can't. I mean, I shouldn't say that either, because I know that it sounds negative, but I would be surprised if a Democrat ever won in Mojave
I will
County.
say this.
Ever.
I met Janet Napolitano, who's the governor of Arizona. She was a Democrat, and was widely accused of being a lesbian. She carried Mojave County not once but twice.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the way she did it was on the backs of the teaching vote.
Well,
The school district, the Mojave County School District, is the largest employer in Mojave County, and so you can, I think a lot of people get away with a lot of stuff, because they think that they can be, they can come out and be just
did
like
they vote
MAGA
for her here?
idiots. Yeah, yeah. The teachers
Okay,
union came
but
through and just like,
here's another thing though, too, Peter. John Kerry came here. They didn't vote
John
for
Kerry.
John Kerry.
Well,
He did.
this
He
is
came
Janet.
here and
Yeah,
campaigned.
yeah. What about Biden?
Biden never came here.
I don't think he came here.
Yeah, Biden was in Phoenix, and I think he was in Tucson, and but Biden carried Arizona.
Well. We're talking about
No, I
Mojave
know,
County.
but that's what I'm saying. For the two
Oh,
representatives you're saying that we need, we're going to either have to get them from Tucson or down in certain parts of Phoenix.
right. You're right.
Certain
So for statewide
districts.
elections, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they so the thing about Arizona is Arizona actually has an independent redistricting.
Mhm.
Basically there's 4 Democrats, there's 4 Republicans, and there's 2 independents, and they're usually like judges that basically are the tiebreakers. And
Mhm.
so they redrew the Arizona's district, and so now there's actually a pretty good chance that you're going to be seeing some of that change. Scottsdale, Mesa, Glendale, that's where it's going to come from. Because you have
Scottsdale and Mesa typically go red. Glendale,
right,
I'm not totally sure on, and it's weird because I grew up in
yeah,
Glendale.
Well,
yeah,
I don't
South
even
Mountain,
really know how much.
yeah, but Snow, even like your voting district, though, changed.
I
You
know.
know.
Mine did.
you
Mine
have so
just.
much growth now, like Arizona and Wickenburg, or is it Wickiup? I always get confused on those two, but all that growth down there, it's grown so much.
Mhm.
I know, like where I lived when I lived in Glendale, like there was basically, I lived on, I think, God, what was it called, like 34th and something, and there was all desert, you know, um, with north of us towards Flagstaff, it was all desert. Now
Yeah, like out
it's
Happy
like there's a
Valley.
building. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's all buildings. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just insane.
Happy
Like
Valley used to be like where the kids
Levine.
would go out to
Yeah,
the desert parties. They'd go out and drink, the high school
yeah.
kids. Like, no
Levine
lie.
used to be just cow pastures, and now it's
Yeah.
all housing development. It's
Yep. It's
it's insane,
insane.
and that's, I mean, they have the industry. That's where you go if you want a job. You move to Phoenix, you got to move to Tucson, the greater Phoenix metropolitan area. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, and so yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. But it's interesting that the Republican Party basically flushed all of Arizona's budget away in the form of, like, tax giveaways to like the wealthy, because they really they expect to lose. They don't expect to be able to carry next year. So they basically, kind of like Cortez burning the ship, burning the boats when he
Hmm.
landed in Mexico. They've done the same thing. They've flushed away the treasury. They've given away all the money that they've had. You know, and they're basically cashing out right now. They've gone ahead and pushed this abortion reform, even though it's not popular. They're pushing the school vouchers, even though it's not popular. They're just doing everything they can to
Because
basically
they
make their
suck.
donors happy and
Do you,
cash.
do you
Yeah,
think do,
They just
it's a
suck.
cash grab.
you think
Yeah.
Katie Hobbs
Yeah,
is going to beat Carrie Lake?
yeah, I do. I think she will. I
I
think
do
Carrie Lake
too.
is so far out there.
Hmm.
Um,
She's
you
a
know,
maggot.
I wonder, have they had the debate yet?
No, not that I've seen.
I'd like to
And
see
I think,
that.
I don't think
well,
Carrie.
I think Katie was like refusing to debate her because Carrie is just such a wackadoodle, and she's just like, I mean, but like,
Right.
this whole news about like Carrie Lake, one of the guy in charge of her Latino outreach was involved with a RICO uh investigation, which is like the mafia investigation, and he tried to hire people to assassinate the FBI agent.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that just came out this last weekend. Like,
Hmm.
that's cuckoo. That's cuckoo bananas. I mean, that's Twilight Zone shit.
Yeah,
Like,
the
how?
She's a QAnon person.
but
Like,
the problem is
what is?
that
But Katie Hobbs needs to debate her if she's calling her up, because they're going to just say that she's weak or whatever if she doesn't do it. So I think,
Yeah,
Katie, if you're listening, I doubt it, but
I
Katie,
I do
you
too.
gotta
Like,
debate her.
Well, and the AGs debated, I think last weekend, and that was interesting. I mean, the guy just got up there and just started lying, about every single issue.
Yeah, but the problem being
And
is that we're going to have like these secretaries of state that are just going to just overturn the election and say that it was fraud or whatever
Yeah.
that they're going to come up with, and they're just going to hand the election over to whoever they wanted to win. I mean, it's not even just in Arizona. Right. I mean, I think it's Pennsylvania is going to have this problem.
Yeah, the county clerks, right?
Yeah,
because the Maricopa County Clerk. Now Maricopa is, that's where the ball game's decided, and so I think Maricopa was able to basically fend off and hold off to that. I'll have to check up on it. I don't know, but yeah, in Mojave County, like, it's Mojave County is not going to determine the state, who's going to be the next governor or attorney general. They're just not. Because it's like people already put Mojave County into their calculus, and so they know that they're going to have to run up the numbers in other places, and they're going to have to get turnout in Phoenix. They're going to have to get turnout in South Mountain. They're going to have to get turnout in Tucson and Pima County and Maricopa and the other blue counties, Coconino and stuff like that, to overwhelm Mojave County, and have their vote. So kind of pushed out, but.
Well, Snow stepped away for a second. What's going on in Tennessee with the midterms? What are you looking at in your state?
It's not much different than I think Arizona is actually a little bit more hopeful than Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's pretty terrible. With the exception of Shelby County, which is where I live, we're kind of a blue oasis in a sea of red. But yeah, it's you've got a lot of we're seeing a lot of funding from Turning Point, which is these are the guys that are like Ben Shapiro and stuff like that, Candace Owens, that they're funding a lot of people to take over and run school board elections and things like that,
Really.
And so they're funding a lot of candidates. A lot of people are getting money from them in order to get in there, and then their agenda is to basically to take apart public education, and right. They've accused teachers of being pedophiles and all this other stuff, which is just outrageous.
We have one guy running for school board here, and his signs are over town like "Stop Critical Race Theory." It's like come on.
Yeah,
I'd like to go to I guess one of the Republican thing and be like, hey, could you define what that is to me? Let me hear you.
Right.
Tell me what you think that means.
Right.
Because it's not.
It's just such a waste of time because they don't even know. Like, I know critical race theory. It was taught as an elective for L3s. Like, if you're in your third year of law school, you can take that, and it was something for people that if you're going to the criminal justice, if you're going to be a criminal justice attorney, like you wanted to know about systems that may be unfairly impacting the justice system. So you took courses on critical race theory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Every time they've talked about it, they've always said, anytime I've read about it or heard about it on a program, they're always like, this is only something done in law school. Like, this is the only place.
It's a complete MacGuffin. Yeah, it's a boogeyman, and here's the thing that's terrible about it. Right. And like, so like they just had this hurricane in Florida, right? And so they're now finding like there's like almost 120,000 Floridians that just in August had their insurance taken away from them because the insurance market has collapsed there. That all these companies that used to insure people are now insolvent, so they've had to like basically close shop. And it's not even because the people weren't paying their dues; they're paying their bills, but basically, even though they were paying, the companies wrote them and said like we cannot insure you anymore, like because it's just too great of a risk, and so
you're going to be underwater someday anyway.
Well, but the Florida legislature could have done something about this to try to prop it up, and they made a couple of really like half-assed attempts to basically prop up the insurance system so they wouldn't have people just completely losing their entire life savings. because let's face it, in America now, your life saving is in your house. That's the really, you don't have $25,000 in a savings account, or you don't have $120,000 in a stock market, on a 401k. You put your money into your house because that was the tried and true way of you buy your house, and then when you pay off your mortgage in 30 years, you're going to have a nice nest egg, and you could sell and you could go live in a condo or something like that when you retire, right? But everyone in Florida, they're going to have their house wiped out. I mean, so the reason that nothing was done about it is because the Florida legislature was too busy trying to decertify Disney. They're going after critical race theory. They're trying to ban books. They were so busy working on this other stuff, they didn't work on stuff that actually mattered.
Right.
And that's
Snow and I were talking about that before we got you on the last episode that we had to cut short, and we were talking about how Biden immediately sent funding down there, and DeSantis at first seemed to put his differences aside with Biden to work on this.
Then he went on Tucker Carlson and talked shit. Like, well, we'll take it. Well, if he's willing to give it to us, trying to still play the victim. He's pandering. Mm-hmm. He's still doing his political shit, even though his state is in a state of chaos and emergency.
And how is Trump like the luckiest bastard in the world? Because he was due to give a deposition on Friday, but because of the hurricane, it got canceled.
He really is the luckiest person.
But like that bomb that New York dropped on him, where they revealed that he's so wildly overinflated his numbers. Like, for example, Mar-a-Lago, where he's at, he's listed the value of it as something like $750 million is the value. But when he bought it, the property that he's on is on land that's subdivided. It's not he doesn't have the ability to subdivide it, so the value of it is actually close to around like 23 million, because you can't, it has to be in a big chunk. Like, there's no way he could turn that into like mass housing and stuff like that. So the same in like Trump Tower, where he said it was like 450 million, and they're like, no, it's like worth maybe 65, like, and he overinflated all these numbers, and then but use those numbers to borrow money against it. You know what I'm saying? So like, when you need collateral in order to get a loan, his loan was based upon the collateral value of these places, and it's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, he's just a fucking shyster. I mean,
he's fucked. Like, every single loan is now going to, like,
piece of shit.
Yeah,
but then he comes up with these things where he'll say, "Hey, they're still trying to steal the next election and give me my fund
out of his supporters." Yeah. He's sucking tons of
here's
money.
What
he's
you
always
should
got a
like.
Scam.
Check this out. The Trump what is it, Save America Fund or whatever bullshit it is?
Yeah.
It has his PAC money has more PAC money than any other PAC out there.
And
right?
I bet you anything he's stealing it from his own PAC
he hasn't
for his other shit.
And how many people?
He hasn't spent a dime. He hasn't spent a dime of it.
How many people from Fort Myers up to Volusia County had their houses wiped out that were probably donating hundreds of dollars to him, and they're not even going to be able to return to their houses? And do you think he's going to lift a finger?
He's not even shit. No, that's his.
He wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire.
No. I mean, he's a con man. I mean, he's a con man. It's all about just making money. That's all he. Yeah, and what's funny is, like, he was always a joke in New York. Like, he was a guy that basically had a bunch of Section 8 housing and rent-controlled property, but he went around talking about it like he was this big deal. You know what I mean? And he wasn't. He was just, I don't know. It's he's in a lot of trouble.
Is he though? Is he really in trouble?
His whole persona is around his ability, is his personification that he has money. And a lot of that problem is
caught though. If anything will
I don't know. In your opinion, is anything actually going to happen to him? Because it seems like he's
Since
bulletproof.
you're a lawyer, you tell us.
In your opinion.
So I would say, I don't have any background on any type of criminal prosecution, but I remember talking to a guy at the federal Tennessee building, and they basically told me, he's a federal prosecutor, and he told me that Trump was like watching a RICO case in action. Like the guy, like,
Okay, so
and
your
he's just
gut
completely brazen about
instinct, do you think he's gonna pay for this or no?
Yeah. I think Trump he's collapsing. Now you're watching a person collapse. Like for instance, they've talked about with the Ukraine war and stuff like that. Which Jesus, that we could have an entire new show on that. But one of the things you do, the object in war is not just to defeat the forces, but to take away their ability to fight. Right? To take away their resources, to take away their supply lines. Trump is having his supply lines taken away. His ability to fund is being taken away. He will never be able to get credit again to purchase anything.
Right.
His charities are going to get thrown out and seized.
But he's so still widely popular. He can just keep on milking his supporters for his funding.
I don't think he beats DeSantis. I think DeSantis is a better Trump than Trump can ever be.
No, the problem with DeSantis is he just took the Trump playbook, and DeSantis, as much as I don't like him, is a smart guy.
Right. Well, he's better organized than Trump.
I don't think he can beat Trump. I don't.
No, I think DeSantis can beat Trump.
DeSantis is ahead by Trump in Florida right now by like 12 points. The last polling I showed, DeSantis and Trump, if they had a runoff right now,
we need to
Trump
wait
would
till
lose
the
Florida.
hurricane's over, though, because it could change back to.
He's only gonna get more popular because he's gonna position himself as a person who's saving people.
He is scarier than Trump.
The ultimate thing, yes,
Exactly.
he is. He's scary, but the ultimate thing is because of Trump's ego and hopefully Trump's health holds out. Because Trump cannot accept defeat, Trump decides to run independently of the Republican Party and splits that vote.
Yep. Please.
Right. He will. Trump will. He'll sabotage the Republican Party.
Yeah, his ego will make him do it.
You know what, man? Wow. Please. What is that like? That scene from Willy Wonka. Oh no, please don't. Yeah, you know what they did? They got into bed.
Oh, no,
they got into bed with Trump. They got and the moral of the story is that when you dance with the devil, you don't stop dancing till the song's over. And so song's not over, man. They're gonna have to dance this one out, and they've really locked their ships to Trump's, and now he's gonna turn out to be an anchor, which is interesting because Biden isn't. Biden, even though he's not as popular, he's around like 43%, 45% popularity. These guys are not tied to him. They're not moored to Biden. Biden is not an anchor. And so, like, you don't ever see Biden coming and campaigning for Carrie Lake or I'm sorry, not Carrie Lake, but for Katie Hobbs. You're not seeing him doing any of that stuff, but he doesn't need to either. You know what I mean? They're able to be successful without him. And that's a problem. Like if they can't tie anything to Biden, or have it be like, oh well, this is another Biden Democrat running for office here, and have that negatively affect everybody, that's a serious problem. Meanwhile, you've got Trump, where you can the new playbook is to say that if you elect these Republicans, they're going to basically burn everything down to the ground. You know what I mean? And so, for a MAGA head in Mojave County, that might actually be like, that probably gives them an erection. But if you're a corporation, like if you're a distributing company, or if you're like a beer company or an IBM, you don't want that. You don't want everything destroyed. You want some sort of semblance of order, and
right.
And you don't want Trump back. The guy was terrible for business. He
sucks.
Yeah, I mean,
look at what he's done to his own businesses.
I mean, but you do have that base though, that that now McConnell is a rhino in their eyes.
What's weird? What's right? Because it's just a matter of time. Like, and what was great about McConnell is Trump going on and saying, like, he insulted his wife and it was like made like this Asian, like derogatory, racist Asian reference to McConnell's wife.
Her.
That was his commerce secretary.
Yeah, Yeah, he hired her.
Right. For 4 years, Trump was like, had no problem with her. But now,
Elaine
that just
Chao.
goes to show. Yeah, Elaine Chao.
Well,
In her family's in shipping. They've made millions and millions of dollars in shipping.
Right.
She's a shipping magnate. Yeah.
And it's only because McConnell came out and just said, yeah, we should not be able to overturn elections. Or basically, he supported that.
McConnell kind of like basically the shot across the bow, so to speak, with McConnell was when he came out and said, "There's probably a good chance that we don't take the Senate," and that's just something like you're not supposed to say. You're supposed to build people up. You're supposed to try to rub them, And then on top of that is Rick Scott is in charge of the senator from Florida, who's also a notoriously bad businessman who was like involved with all these fraud schemes with Florida's health Medicare pay and stuff like that.
But McConnell's like
so
I'm not gonna allow for this to go on.
So they had this war chest of like $280 million, and Rick Scott blew it all. He's blown through all of it. There's nothing left. Yeah. And so like when you run a campaign, like you the last 30 days, like it's well known in politics that people don't start paying attention until later. So just when people are paying attention, just when people are tuning in, they don't have any money. Well, the money's all gone. And so, but getting back to your point, MJ, like, yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen when Trump faces DeSantis? He might get up there and just call him like, oh, well, Miss Florida over here, or Minnie Mouse's girlfriend, or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And like the MAGA base will be like, yeah, dude, what he just said, take that, I mean, and then, Trump runs away with it, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, man. I can't get into these guys' heads, you know what I mean? I don't know. It'd be easier for me to go touch the moon than to figure out what motivates these MAGA heads.
Don't you think an incredibly stupid play was doing all this overturning Roe versus Wade before the midterms?
Yeah.
I mean, that was just
it was
dumb.
The dumbest fucking thing the Republicans could
have
ever done.
There's two things though that should really there's a real tell here. Okay, one is the timing of it was really bad, and the fact that they're really brazen about it is also really bad. But I think that the tell is that they know that the demographics are changing, and that this is literally the only time that they're going to be able to do it. I think they know that if Democrats get 60 people in the Senate, which may or may not happen, but if they get that number in the Senate, that they're going to expand the bench.
Yeah,
and they're going to take it away, and it'll be gone for a generation.
It really boils down to, they're becoming irrelevant, and that's what they're struggling with the most, and that's why this is happening.
Yeah. Right, because kids today are mostly progressive. For the most part.
They're trending. Yeah, they're trending that way, and it's funny because like the whole group of like Turning Point USA with Charlie Kirk, and with Ben Shapiro, and with Candace Owens. Their whole, reason for being is to target the youth, is to basically target kids that are 13 to 19 years old and convince them to be conservative.
But the youth probably just thinks that those three people are just total dorks, right? I would think they were dorks.
Yeah, it's not working.
Have you heard him talk?
Well,
His voice is like
I try not to.
Yeah. He's like a little weasel.
Unless you're like the Alex Keaton type of teenager.
Yeah, that's the only way, but they ain't getting none of the youth. Like, I mean, it's a very small percent.
Wasn't there that one episode in Family Ties where like the family loses all their money and like and like some sort of bond market, and Alex like starts questioning Reaganism? Like there was an episode there towards the end where he was like, you know what, it's all bullshit, and so he had like this this
his
light bulb
favorite
moment,
president was Richard Nixon, so he's like he was like our Roger Stone.
Richard Nixon is like Sun Tzu compared to Trump. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he passed the Clean Air Act. He opened trade with China. You know what I mean? And he also expanded a lot of other environmental protections.
Right.
Like everything that Trump has destroyed.
And to bring this full circle, didn't he deputize Elvis to be on his drug task force?
Yeah, that's a great story. An even better one is like when Elvis actually chased down he invited some guy into his house, and uh, the guy stole from him, and so the guy jumped on a plane to try to get away, and like had all this stuff jewelry that he stole from Elvis on the plane.
Mhm.
Elvis drove onto the tarmac of Memphis airport,
No
stopped the
way.
plane, showed him the Secret Service badge that Nixon let him have, and used that to board the plane, and got on the plane and confronted the guy. He's like, "You
Fuck
stole my shit."
yes.
The guy's like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "You
Why
know what,
didn't they
man? I'm
put
gonna let you
that in the
have it."
Elvis movie?
They
Should
should
put
have.
that in the
They
fucking
should
Elvis
have.
movie.
They should have.
What the fucking fuck?
Yeah, yeah. So he did that, and then at the end he tells the guy, he's like, "I'm gonna let you have it, but karma's gonna get you, dude." And basically left him off of that.
Like, see what the brilliance of this podcast is? We just brought it all
Yeah.
back full circle at the end.
Right.
We
I
started
learned-
with Elvis,
everything-
I learned
ended
something
with
new
Elvis.
about Elvis.
You
Yeah.
didn't hear that story?
No,
Yeah.
I fucking did not do that. I was 2 when he died.
I remember the day he died. I
Yeah.
remember my mom crying in the kitchen.
There's this, the thing about Elvis is that he became the king because Jerry Lee Lewis married a 13-year-old, his 13-year-old cousin. And it's very real possibility that Jerry Lee Lewis would have been the king of rock and roll if it wasn't for the fact that he's a crazy motherfucker.
Yeah,
Like,
but
he is fucking insane.
why didn't Elvis get in trouble? I mean, it wasn't his cousin, but he married Priscilla. And how old was Priscilla
She
when
was-
they met? 14?
Dude,
I can't
I'm gonna
remember.
blow your mind with this, but those guys in that time were doing this shit all over again. Like, look at the lead singer of Aerosmith. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Steve Tyler.
He picked up that girl, and she was like, what, 14 years old, and then he adopted her from her family,
Right,
and
yeah.
basically took her on tour, and then left her and just abandoned her. After the tour ended.
That's
um,
weird.
Yeah, and the same with, like, I think either Mick Jagger or Keith Richards did the same thing.
And, yeah, there was some with Led Zeppelin too.
Yeah. I mean,
And that guy in the Who, right? Pete Townsend.
Well, Pete Townsend, he was. You can't see
Yeah.
the air quotes because it's a podcast. He was doing research.
Right,
Right.
for a book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, all those guys were 10-agent motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Back in the day, but it was only like, but they weren't their cousins though, and that was what differentiated it from from Jerry Lee Lewis, is that was his cousin that he did that to.
Right.
There's a story about Jerry Lee Lewis where he bought like the Thompson machine gun that John Dillinger used, and bought it and like shot up his studio, his office in Memphis with it. I mean, he was insane, man. And what was funny is that Jerry Lee Lewis turned to country music to rehab his image, because he went so far that even he became too far for rock and roll. You know what I mean? He was too much of a bad boy for rock and roll. And so he went back to his gospel roots and to country music to become a good guy again. And so he wanted to play at the Grand Ole Opry, and he hounded the Grand Ole Opry and hounded them. And they're like, no, we can't have him on there because the guy's crazy. And so they finally convinced the Grand Ole Opry to let Jerry Lee Lewis go on stage. And Jerry Lee Lewis comes out on stage and is like, hey, there's 2 things you need to know about me. One is my name is Jerry Lee Lewis. I'm the killer, and I'm a rock and rolling motherfucker. And then started playing the piano and stuff like that. And like there's literally, like, if you watch the video, like the manager for like Grand Ole Opry is literally throwing stools and tables at him while he plays. It's just insane, dude. He did that on live TV. Yeah, they tried to bleep it out.
The one last thing about the Elvis movie, and looking back and, show my age, it was only, 12, 14, 15 years before I was born when Elvis went on TV, and they couldn't show him from the hips down because the first time he went on TV, it outraged everybody. And how far we have gone in that 50 years.
To twerking.
But also, the other thing was the amount of racism that was still going on in the late 60s, we're not that far removed
Yeah.
from everything
No, that part
Yeah.
has not come as far as it should have.
yeah, and that goes back to the whole make America great again. Well, make it great to what time? Because even when I was born, it was a fucked up place.
Or for whom, for whom.
Yeah, well, you can't have certain books in schools anymore. I think it's in Florida. Teachers can't hand out books, and you can't have book fairs anymore.
It's because they're becoming irrelevant, so they're trying to erase the people that they think are responsible for their irrelevancy.
But don't they realize that it's the internet?
Really?
It's the internet age, and anybody can kids aren't going to pick up books as much as they're going to look at a YouTube video and learn this shit anyways.
You can go ahead and erase all their books. Go ahead and do that. Last time I checked, you can get whatever you want on Google. So,
I think as everyone here is a person who lived through the Two Live Crew era, where they tried to ban Two Live Crew. All it does, it's a Streisand effect. All it's going to do, right? I mean, everybody was listening to Uncle Luke, man, because all of a sudden that's like literally the best thing you have to do is ban something and then tell people that they can't have it.
Okay,
and they just
I have a great story about this. So I went in Kingman, we had Flavor Flav come here and play one time out of that place off of Golden Valley, out of Castle Rock.
Castle Rock, yeah.
No, then get this. After that, they had Two Live Crew came. So I was like, oh my God. Like, he started rapping and they were rapping and everything. But then I was like, so we got a chance to talk to him. And I'm like, are you going to play Band in the USA? And he's like, nah, we don't play that anymore. And I'm like, what? That was like one of the most important times in my history growing up as a child. And he's like looking at me crazy. Then he goes like this, are you going to be giving up some pussy or not? If not, quit talking to me. And I'm like, no, sir, I have a fiance. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry to bug you. And he just looked at me like I was out of my mind for coming up to him and talking about that. And I'm like, you guys don't realize how important that was.
Right.
Hey, well, I guess on that note, we need to wrap this up. But we should say rest in peace, Coolio.
Yeah.
Gangsta's Paradise.
Yeah, fantastic, right? Yeah.
Fantastic. Slide.
That's such a good video with Michelle Pfeiffer.
I know. Yeah. I liked Coolio.
All right, Peter.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Peter, it was great having you on again. Oh, yeah, and what's the latest on Bootsy's Delta Funk? We'll wrap up with that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so hey, well, thank you. So there's a magazine that you guys might have heard of called Atlas Obscura. And Atlas Obscura is a media and travel company that has built their whole brand around telling stories about the world's most wondrous and unusual places and experiences. And now they're getting into the realm of food. They had a group that kind of splintered off called Gastro Obscura, which is all about like it explores fascinating food and culinary traditions from around the world. And so they found out about Bootsy's, and so a producer from California called me about maybe a couple months ago and said like, hey, I'm with Atlas Obscura and we want to basically feature your product. We just launched a new New York Times best-selling cookbook, and we want Bootsy's to be a part of it. And so I'm like, what? I'm thinking to myself like, is somebody fucking pranking me? Like, is this for real? And he's like, so he's like, look, I'll send you my email and all my credentials. And so anyway, we called back and we talked it over, and I told him the story of our products and who we are. And he was like, I love it. I want you guys to definitely be a part of this project. So the project it's a vending machine that features products from all over the South. It's going to be region by region, but this region is South, and so we're going to be there. And it's going to take place in Brooklyn from the 7th of October to I think the 10th. And so if you're in Brooklyn, cruise on by, check out the Atlas Obscura booth or their location, and basically you can get a bottle of Bootsy's there. But Yeah, so we're going to be in Brooklyn, man. I think there's about 10 other companies that are going to be featured along with us. I think we're one of maybe one or two from Mississippi that are going to be there. And yeah, it's really rad. I mean, it's obviously we're so thankful. It's just we're just humbled just to be even a part of this big this project and with a company like Atlas Obscura, you know. And so we're really excited about it.
That's
yeah.
awesome. I know me
Cool.
personally.
I wish I could go to Brooklyn.
I need to get back down to West of Third and replenish my supply of bootsies
Me
because I'm getting alone.
too.
I'm getting
I need
low.
to also. Yes. I'm
Yes,
starting to run
please
low.
support the locals.
Yes.
We are we
Yes.
are chugging away on Amazon.com, on Amazon too, so you can find our store on Amazon.
Yeah. Hey.
We are just selling it hand over fist, but please go to the local places, man. Give them your money. And they definitely support local.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey. I had a date the other night, and I made her some steak with the whiskey lemon funk on it, and she loved it. So.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Enjoy that, because I don't know
Sweet.
if we're able to get any more. So that might be the last whiskey lemon funk in the world.
What?
So,
Why?
yeah. We are not able to source the ingredients for it. So we're working with some manufacturers.
Great.
It was the whiskey lemon funk used Irish whiskey. It was there were specifically kind of white oak barrels from Nigeria or from Nicaragua that were used in the making of Irish whiskey that we used to make that kind of it's a Irish sea salt that we used, and so we're not able to get it anymore.
Great.
And so
Let's go, Brandon.
we're trying
Ruin
we're
something
looking
else.
we're looking to see if we can get other sea salts, if other sea salts would work and will absorb the whiskey
Okay.
like this sea salt did. You know, and so we also don't have access to the Nigerian whiskey barrels anymore. But you know, the good news is we live in Tennessee, so there's kind of a plethora
Yeah.
of whiskey
Don't
bottles.
you got like Jack Daniels?
All right. So
There-
what's your second go-to on steak though after the whiskey lemon?
You know, our all-purpose is also really good. You know, so the all-purpose is excellent. You know, I would definitely our sweet and smoky is what's being featured and in Brooklyn right now. It's a honey-based barbecue sauce, which is a little bit different, and so it's having a moment. Definitely, if you get a chance to get some of that, you know, it's you know, and maybe you know, steak is great, but switch it up a little bit, man. Get some chicken wings, get some maybe some bone-in pork chops, you know, center cut pork chops, nice big, you know, thick 2-inch pork chops, and grill those, and try some other stuff.
I did wings in the air fryer with your stuff on them.
Yeah,
Turns out
yeah.
great.
You can make pizzas.
Yeah. Pizzas. Yeah, we need to get back.
Yep.
We need to get back
Yeah.
to doing the
can use
you
it
know
as a
the
sauce
recipes
for the
on the
pizza.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
I actually just did that. I posted up some stuff on Facebook about we had a guy tell me that the white barbecue sauce made his wings soggy, and so that's obviously not something you want to have to do. But it made me realize that, you know, some of the stuff there, it is a little bit different. You know, it's not the usual stuff. So the trick with the white barbecue sauce is you actually have to brush it on and then turn it back to the grill, and you cook it, you know, after brushing it with the white barbecue sauce, and it actually makes your food even crispier, you know. So it should not do it soggy, you know what I mean, unless you like that, if you're cool with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
All right, Pete. Well, we got to wrap this up. Hey, and when are the T-shirts going to become available again? Because you know
they're available now.
They
Yeah.
are. So we just go there.
yeah. I mean, I need to put them on the website, but they are available. You know, I'm happy to share a link and you know, put them up there. I think we're sold all out of the mediums though. All we have left are larges. So
All right.
Okay.
Well, send us the link and I'll put it on the link to the podcast.
yeah, we'll do.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, all
right, guys.
hang on,
Good-
hang on line
good
for a minute
talking
while we
to
wrap
you.
this up,
Good
okay.
talking to you, Peter.
and we'll wrap up this edition, and we will see you next week. Well, not even next week, maybe later this week for another episode.
Yeah. Bye, y'all.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, y'all.